Welcome to TGIF.
Did you catch the title? Caught in a Storm. This conversation can go a couple different directions. We could go the whole direction of real weather. We've all been in some type of storm, had to change our plans, had to pull over, had to redirect, and all of those things. But what about the storms of life? Have you been caught in one? Maybe you're in one now. Regardless of the weather storm or that storm in life, all of them are exhausting.
Which takes us to the word of the day, which is worn out. I come across a lot of people that are worn out, and I often even think about my own life when I feel like I'm getting worn out. And the scriptures tell us we're supposed to live a worn out life?
No.
I don't think so. And so we're looking today at Matthew chapter 14, verse 27. But Jesus spoke to them at once. Don't be afraid, he said. Take courage, I am here. It's interesting how God has articulated for Matthew to write this, because Matthew chapter 14 starts out with the feeding of 5,000, which we know is more than 5,000 because that was just 5,000 men. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there was a feeding of a lot of people. And talk about getting worn out doing something like that. I mean, Jesus did all the work, but the disciples in that moment, they had to be, feeling that pressure. But what happens afterwards is what really caught my attention and your attention, is that Jesus says immediately, right after this, get in the boat and go back across the lake. He didn't give them any details. I mean, he didn't say what's in store or where they're going. It's just get in the boat and go. Now he went off to be silent and be quiet and to reflect and strengthen his power, his love of God. I mean, that's what that time was apart. And so in that time, though, the disciples are setting off across the lake, and what gets really interesting is that the storm happens. This storm happens, and they find themselves working really hard, don't they? Mm-hmm. It gets really complicated. But I think that when you start looking at the struggle of life, I think that he sent them back into life, is what he did. He had a miracle with the feeding, and now he's sending them back into life and trying to get them to, I think, articulate something that maybe the crowd didn't. The crowd was looking to be fed. The crowd was looking to, receive a blessing, where he's trying to teach his disciples how to rely on him in the midst of storms.
Because in those storms, there's waves and there's winds. And this was physical. This was a real storm happening, but Jesus, in his famous ways of always shedding light on things through experiences when he was with these disciples on earth, he was very clear about what he planned for them. This whole experience. So when the winds and storms came and they started to struggle, and my guess is they were rowing, and they were
They're fishermen, right? They're fishermen.
Thinking of all the things they could do or should do. But I love how Jesus used this to teach them. And it got me to thinking about us. When we're in a storm of life, when the winds and the waves and everything are coming at us, are we sitting in that boat just rowing and trying to do everything in our strength and trying to figure out a better plan, and that wears us out? Or are we relying on God? And I think that when we're in that worn out stage, that the mental and spiritual worn out stage, it's because our focus is not on Jesus.
And sometimes we think we can solve it too. I mean, there's an element of that too. And I think, they're fishermen. They've been out on the ocean before, and they've been out in these seas and rough winds and stuff. They know you just work hard and you make it happen. And I think this is that lesson that you're talking about, is that they were getting worn out. So there are these 8 words that Jesus speaks into it, which are powerful. I mean, they're not only powerful, they're very practical in what we should think as disciples, as people who follow God. No matter what you're facing, don't be afraid. Take courage. I am here.
I think that's a good word to write on an index card, to put it where you see it in your car, in your bathroom, where you sit and do your private time. Just those 8 words are so powerful, because we know in that situation of that storm the disciples were in, Jesus could have calmed the storm. He could have eliminated the storm. He could have done a lot of things. But what he wanted them to experience was his calming presence. Not the calming of the winds or the rains or the waves, the calming of his presence. And I think to myself, all the times of the storms, all the times I've been in storms, the storms we're going through right now, I want to fix everything. I want to row harder. I want to change the plan. I want to redirect the boat. But Jesus is saying, let me be the calming presence in the storm. In the eye of the storm, I can be the calming presence. And that's not easy. It's easy to focus on all the waves and the rains and the winds. But Jesus is saying, focus on me. I will bring the calm.
And we know it's going to get even a little more tense, don't we? Because now we know the passage goes on and Jesus is inviting Peter to actually step, what? Out of the boat? That's crazy. And walk on water as the storm continues.
And we know that might have to be another TGIF because there's a lot with that too. But it's like eyes on Jesus is water walking, right? When your eyes are on Jesus, you have power and strength, not yours, that God gives you. When your eyes are on the storm, you're going down because it's going to wear you out and it's going to take you to every last ounce of energy that you have. You're going to sink.
Yeah, and I think that what we see in Jesus is that we can actually be bold in the middle of the storm. I think we do coward in the storm and we get so worried rather than say boldly, okay, Jesus, I'm in the storm. I'm stepping out of the boat. I'm trusting you. When our courage comes from his presence, then I think that the fears that we often build up in our head are bigger than they probably actually are. But it's that ability that Jesus can walk with us in that moment.
And all the what ifs that go with that. Because when you're in that storm, you're trying to predict the outcome you want. You've included it in your prayers. You've told God what outcome you want. And we can ask God these things. But he wants us to focus on his presence and his will. So close your eyes right now. Y'all close your eyes there and you close your eyes too, okay? All eyes are closed. Imagine yourself sitting on a boat. You're in the middle of a very large body of water. And Jesus is walking towards you and says, don't be afraid. Take courage. I am here. Even if the waters begin to rage and the winds kick up and you can't see Jesus anymore, he is still with you. You can open your eyes now. It's good,
Reminder.
but it's not easy.
No.
So those 8 words, I hope you'll put them somewhere. I hope you'll share them with somebody this week and let it speak to your heart. Take courage. I am here. Don't be afraid. All those words, put them in any order you want. I am here. Take courage. Don't be afraid. Take courage. Don't be afraid. I am here. The words, the 8 words, and the fact that Jesus spoke them to the disciples and they speak to us today can give you that calming peace that only Jesus can give you. So the question, what are some struggles in your life that are wearing you out? Where do you need to speak these 8 words into? What situation? What relationship?
And be bold.
And be bold in knowing that you can have courage because Jesus is with you in this storm. So caught in a storm, if you're not in one, you're heading to one. Take these 8 words with you. Have a great week and we'll see you next time on TGIF. Bye.
Bye.